This is Top Accurate Global News Update. I am Abiodun Mohammed. Search teams detected underwater sounds while scanning the North Atlantic for a tourist submersible that vanished with 5 people aboard during a deep-sea voyage to the century-old wreck of the Titanic, the US Coast Guard said early on Wednesday. The detection of the sounds by Canadian aircraft on Tuesday, day 3 of the search, was reported by the Coast Guard as the clock ticked down to the last 24 hours of the missing craft's presumed oxygen supply. Robotic undersea search operations were diverted to the area where the sounds seemed to originate, but there was still no tangible sign of the missing vessel, the Coast Guard said on Twitter. The 21-foot-long submersible Titan, operated by US-based OceanGate Expeditions, lost contact with its parent surface vessel on Sunday morning, about 1 hour 45 minutes into what should have been a 2-hour dive to the site of the world's most famous shipwreck. The mini-sub was designed to remain underwater for 96 hours, according to its specifications, giving it 5 occupants, until Thursday morning before air supply would run out if the craft was still intact. The fate of the submersible and those aboard remained a mystery as teams from the US, Canada, and France mounted an intensifying search in an area of open sea larger than the state of Connecticut. Taiwan's government says China will try to interfere in key elections in January by illicitly funding Beijing-friendly candidates using communication apps or group tours, according to 3 internal security reports reviewed by pressmen. President Tsai Ing-wen's government has repeatedly warned of China's attempts to influence public opinion on the democratically governed island, which Beijing claims as its own territory despite Taipei's strong objections. Although senior Taiwan officials, including the head of the National Security Council, Wellington Koo, have this year warned that China will try to sway the presidential and legislative elections with influence campaigns, including misinformation. Details of how Taiwan thinks China may use illicit funding have not previously been reported. High on the government's watch list for likely recipients in Taiwan are small political parties that support Beijing's sovereignty claims over the island, local councillors, and temples that engage in exchange activities with China, according to one of the classified reports reviewed by Reuters. Beijing could also offer free trips to China to hundreds of Taiwanese involved in election campaigns ahead of the vote to influence voting decisions, another of the internal reports said, pointing to local politicians such as borough chiefs and village heads. The United States plans to levy new restrictions this week to cut off finances to Myanmar's military junta, according to sources with knowledge of the matter and Thai news outlet. The Thai report, published on Tuesday, said Washington would announce new sanctions on Myanmar Foreign Trade Bank and Myanmar Investment and Commercial Bank as early as Wednesday. 2 people with knowledge of the matter told pressmen the reports were accurate. The US Embassy in Thailand said in a statement the United States, in quotes, continues to look for ways to promote accountability for the coup and related violence, including efforts to block revenue to the regime. The United States and other Western nations have imposed multiple rounds of sanctions on Myanmar's military leaders since they seized power in a coup in 2021, overthrowing the democratically elected government led by Aung San Suu Kyi and killing thousands of opponents in a crackdown. A spokesman for Myanmar's military junta said it was not worried about any new sanctions. Sao Mei-tun told the state media channel MWD on Tuesday evening that the country has experienced sanctions before and they will not face losses if there are new sanctions on Myanmar state-owned banks. Authorities in Brazil have confiscated nearly 29 tons of illegal shark fins bound for Asia in what they described as possibly the largest such seizure ever. The Environment Protection Agency, IBAMA, estimated some 10,000 blue sharks and short-fin mako sharks had been killed for the fins. The 2 species were added to Brazil's national list of endangered species last month. In quote, it is possibly the largest seizure in history of this type of product, IBAMA Environmental Protection Director J. Smith said in a statement. IBAMA's operation targeted 2 export companies, but others were still under investigation, Smith said. Officials said the firms had illegally used permits for other species to amass the huge haul. Shark fishing is banned in Brazil. Fighting the destruction of Brazil's fauna and flora is a major goal of President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva's administration after his predecessor, Jair Bolsonaro, weakened environmental agencies and oversight powers. British inflation defied expectations of a slowdown to hold at 8.7% in May, putting yet more pressure on the Bank of England a day before it is predicted to raise interest rates for the 13th time in a row to tame stubborn price growth. Markets increased their bet on further rate rises following Wednesday's official figures, which showed underlying inflation rose to its highest since 1992. The headline figure means British inflation is once again the fastest of any major advanced economy. The numbers are also uncomfortable for Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who has pledged to halve inflation over the course of this year before a probable 2024 election, and are likely to increase mortgage costs for millions of homeowners. Economists polled by Reuters had forecast that the annual consumer price inflation rate would drop to 8.4% in May, moving further away from October's 41-year high of 11.1%. Sterling briefly jumped against the US dollar and the euro after the figures were released, and two-year government bond yields, which are sensitive to interest rate expectations, rose to their highest since July 2008. That is the size of top accurate global news updates. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy midweek.